John, Nostradamus, Confucius, the Mayans, Aztec, and Hopi. What's something that the divine, enlightened, and ancient all have in common? What did they see and predict during their time here on Earth when they saw visions of the end of days? Were the pictures they were given simply glimpses of the future or warnings of impending doom? Well, since history does repeat itself, let's take a look today and let's find out what predictions, dreams, and visions have come true, especially ones made eons ago. And in these days, do we see moral lessons we all need to pay a little more attention to? Or will we just hastily shrug them off as a few more amazing coincidences? Don't miss this exhilarating 3-part series on Edge of Wonder, Prophecies and the End Times.
Hey everyone, welcome to Edge of Wonder. We are your hosts. I'm Ben.
And I'm Rob. So with everything going on in the world, we thought we would break it down and show some religious prophecies, ancient prophecies, and some modern predictions that pertain to what is happening in the world right now.
Yes, and in fact, when we started to look into this, we found so much that it was impossible to put this into one episode. So this video, part 1, is going to focus more on prophecies revolved around plagues and natural disasters, while in part 2, we'll get into more biblical stuff related to the coming of a Messiah and of the end times and even the Antichrist.
And oh boy, you guys, wait till you see part 2, where we break down a lot on Revelations and who the Antichrist could be through our research. Honestly, if your mind isn't blown after these 2 episodes, then you might as well go back to sleep. Although maybe when you wake up, you'll want to take the red pill and deep dive into the rabbit hole. But let's jump right into this because we have a lot to cover.
Recently, there have been reports of rivers turning red, large swarms of locusts, even water turning into wine. That's right, water turning into wine. A small town in Italy found that wine was actually flowing out of their faucets for a few hours. It actually turned out to be the fault of a local winery, in which I won't even begin to attempt to say the name because I'm going to butcher that one. But they had an issue with their bottling line.
Somehow, the wine company's sparkling red wine called Lambrusco Grasparosa di Castelvetro flowed into the city's water lines and into the homes of local residents. Doesn't seem to be a miracle per se, but it did happen. And when you line this up with everything else biblical that's happening, it doesn't seem to be just a random coincidence.
But really, there have been reports coming out recently of rivers and other bodies of water turning red in places all over the world, such as China, Russia, Lebanon, Netherlands, and parts of the US, and even Australia. The Mochanka River in the town of Tumen, Russia, turned red overnight, which then made the local citizens concerned about their drinking water. Yeah, I mean, I would be concerned too if the water in my town suddenly turned red with no explanation. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, and like we said, this is happening all over the world. Australia's Bondi Beach turned red. Also in Beirut, the Jiang River in Laoyang, Henan Province in northern China, a lake in Texas. There was even red rainfall that fell for over 15 minutes in Savannah Gala, a town near Sri Lanka.
In the Bible, the 2 Chronicles 7:13 and 14, it says,
When I shut up the heavens so that there is no rain, or command locusts to devour the land, or send a plague among my people, if my people, who are called by my name, will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven, and I will forgive their sin and will heal their land.
In Eastern Africa and parts of South Asia, hundreds of billions of locusts swarmed through, destroying crops and threatening the livelihoods of local residents. It's also been reported that swarms have arrived in Kuwait, Bahrain, and Qatar, and along the coast of Iran. And of course, we can't forget about these murder hornets, which somehow came to Washington state at a time when the planet is shut down. That's not convenient at all.
Yeah, I love that meme that's floating around with Dr. Evil saying, "Fear the coronavirus is on the decline, release the murder hornet."
Yeah, that's a good one.
It's pretty funny. According to the Jerusalem Post, swarms of locusts made their way to the shores of the Red Sea, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia, swarming holy sites in Mecca, reminding people of those biblical times. And we thought that the last part in the Second Chronicles was important because we feel that all of these plagues and disasters are warning from the divine, asking people to repent and to change their ways.
When Moses encountered the Egyptian Pharaoh urging him to free the Jewish slaves or face the wrath of God, the Pharaoh refused, which led to God commanding Moses to send locusts into the land of Egypt. Exodus 10:12 states,
And the Lord said unto Moses, Stretch out thine hand over the land of Egypt for the locusts, that they may come upon the land of Egypt, and eat every herb of the land, even all that the hail hath left.
Now, it can't be just a coincidence that all of this seems to be happening at basically the exact same time. There are several other places in the Bible that speak of locusts. Isaiah 33 talks of locusts being sent to pass judgment over Zion. But what about Eastern prophecies? What do they have to say?
Well, you guys, we'll get back to the Bible, but first we wanted to explore what other sources are saying related to the plague that's happening today. What's interesting is that a few centuries ago, a booklet was found under the pillow of Confucius, and it claimed to be written by Confucius himself. The book is a dialogue between Confucius and his students, one of which is named Zigong, and Confucius lived around 500 BC, so as you can imagine, this is a very old booklet.
Yeah. Now, because China at that time didn't use the calendar dates like we use today, they have a word for each year in a 60-year cycle. The word they used was Gengzi, which when looked at the Gregorian calendar is actually this year, 2020. But exactly 60 years ago, 1960 to be exact, that was also the year of Gengzi, which was consequently the beginning of the Great Famine in China during the Cultural Revolution. So in essence, it could be also referring to that time and year.
Actually, many ancient Chinese books suggest that in every 60-year cycle, a major catastrophic event would take place. Going backwards in time to the last event before the Great Famine was the year 1900, in which the 8-power Allied forces entered Beijing. This event caused China to fall into an unprecedented disaster, and the turmoil is actually called Gengzi National Disaster.
Then in the Gengzi year before that, going back 60 years again, to 1840, was the first year of the Opium War. Western powers knocked on the gate of the ancient closed Manchu dynasty. Then, 60 years prior to that, was the year 1780, in which the 6th Panchen Lama entered Beijing and died. That same year, Spain declared war on Britain, and the Revolutionary War was going on, and the birth of the United States, and a strong earthquake occurred in Iran, killing more than 200,000 people. And then you can go back 60 years even prior to that. In 1720, China had a lot of earthquakes, flooding, and some big wars that same year.
But let's hear what he wrote and compare it to the world right now.
In the year of the Gengzi, the year that all China will weep, the omens will be so bad that the new year will not be celebrated. Then the plague will come. It will come with a fury. The tigers and the wolves will hide in the mountains.
Now, what's interesting is that everyone knows that China didn't publicly celebrate the Lunar New Year this year, which takes place in late January or early February because of the virus. And the virus did come in a fury. And as we're all told, even tigers got the virus. Whether or not that's true is a whole different story.
It continues with,
The plague will encompass all the land and will eventually spread to the whole world. Very soon, rice will become so expensive that no one can eat. Then the rivers will sink all the boats. People in that year will only be able to harvest rice in the very early spring. There will be no harvest of late-season rice, beans, wheat, and oats, because vast clouds of locusts will lay waste to the entire countryside.
Now, even though it mentions that a plague will affect the whole world, it is difficult to say if it's talking about how the whole world wouldn't have any harvest or just specific countries. Right now, with these murder hornets killing bees and farmers losing their fields to heavy rains or droughts in recent times, things are not looking good as of right now for most of the world. On top of that, some farmers are getting COVID-19, but there is a lot of controversy revolved around that.
Yeah, such as why do I keep seeing the same homeless people on the street since March eating out of trash cans who seem to be doing fine because I still see them eating out of trash cans, but yet farmers who are not around anybody are getting the virus? I mean, that's...
Oh, and let's not forget about Madonna magically getting COVID-19.
I didn't even hear that. She got COVID-19?
Yeah. Yeah, I posted about it today. I said, when did COVID become an STD?
And to continue on, it says,
I, Gentleman Zigong, assure you that this year the locusts will fall from the skies, and the destruction will be complete. Smoke and fire will fill the fields, but nothing will be able to stop the swarms.
Of course, as we stated earlier, this goes along with the biblical swarms of locusts destroying so much of Africa and other places as well as the fires burning lands all over the world.
Then it continues saying,
Once the locusts have destroyed the land and the smoke is still coming from the ground, the rivers will flood the countryside. I, Gentleman Zigong, will tell you Chinese in 2020 how to survive. Remain very close to your families and your neighbors. The best is to have stored up plenty of gold and food to live and share freely with those you love. Tolerate no thieves among the people. Be uniters and not dividers. If you can do all these things, you will survive.
The interesting thing about this is that due to the quarantine, we are all spending a lot more time with our families and loved ones. Maybe sometimes a little too much, but still, this book offers some great advice and reminds everyone to be compassionate and to give to those who are in need.
Exposing the truth about the 44th U.S. President. Did you know that Obama was not only a Christian, but also closely related to the Muslim Brotherhood? Yeah, you heard that right. In this final episode, we bring it all together. Stuff you haven't heard about Obama and his connections with the Muslim Brotherhood. With certain key figures, including President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi. But that's not all. We also thoroughly examine Barack Obama's possible connection with the Antichrist and end with one of the most intriguing speculations of all, Michelle Obama. So don't miss the conclusion of this epic series, Obamagate Part 3, only on edgeofwonder.tv.
There's a book of Chinese prophecies with a set of poems from the 7th century during the Tang Dynasty, which is known for predicting the future of China. It was written by Li Chunfeng and Yuan Tiangong, and has been compared to the works of famous Western prophet Nostradamus.
The book is supposed to contain clues to China's future, conveyed through a series of 60 surreal drawings, each accompanied by an equally cryptic poem. When you translate the title in a literal sense, it means back-pushing sketch. I don't think we would call that in English, but that's literally the title of it in Chinese.
Anyway, each poem basically describes a prophecy about a Chinese historical event that will most likely occur in order. For example, the 36th poem should occur before the 37th poem, and so on. Poem number 60 is the last prophecy. Some sources have said that out of the 60 prophecies, 55 of them are supposed to have already been fulfilled. Though, just like Nostradamus' work, the interpretations largely depend on the individual reading it.
Yeah, but let's give an example. Number 41 seems to be about the rise of communism. It states,
Heaven and earth enter into darkness. The grass and trees grow unheeded. The inversion of yin and yang. Sun and earth are upside down. Everyone must wear red on his head without a head. Abusing the power. When will this end? 9 and 19 years of big mistakes. The Qin County is the only place suitable for claiming the throne.
There's also a drawing of what seems to be a foolish person stepping on the sun.
The explanation of this is that every sentence describes the characteristic of communism, with all principles being reversed and while ignoring the importance of the economy and defying social status. Everyone must wear red on his head, and without a head means everyone is blindly following communism without questioning it. People stopped thinking for themselves and in God and blindly followed the CCP. Nobody realized that communism is nothing but a big joke. And the 9 and 19 years of big mistakes means when you add up 9 plus 19, you get 28, which means 28 years of misery for China. Mao established the People's Republic of China in 1949, and he died in the year 1976. That's exactly 28 years. I hope you all followed that paragraph.
We could honestly go into all 55 of these poems because they are so fascinating, but to save time, we want to show you the ones that have yet to pass. One translation of poem number 56 says,
"Flyers are not birds, divers are not fish. A war does not depend on soldiers. It's a making game. Millions of miles of deadly smoke. On top a mountain, and at bottom a fountain. A sight out of people's imagination. Big trouble not solved, but greater trouble arrives."
The drawing accompanied by this poem is of two soldiers holding weapons but not fighting, and instead spitting fire out of their mouths, with a river behind them of fish and birds in the air.
The beginning here is very ambiguous, but it is possible that the flyers are not birds, would be describing airplanes, and divers are not fish, would hint to maybe submarines? Then it mentions some kind of conflict or war, and in Chinese it is described as playing a game or making a game, and some people think it means a technological game, meaning like cyber warfare. Now in Chinese, when you put the two characters for fire, huo, together, they become the character or word for inflammation, yan.
Now this is where it gets really interesting. When we had Cindy, our Taiwanese team member, look more into this, she told us that a making game could mean that if you do bad things, then you will get retribution for it. And as for the top of the mountain and bottom of a fountain, it could mean that a plague will cover the entire world, no matter where you are, under the water or at the highest peak of a mountain. The interesting thing about the drawing related to making a game is that it could also be translated as two different immortal beings or divine beings making a game with humans, meaning that the virus was an act of God's will, and there is no war, but there's disaster all over the world and retribution for humans becoming immoral and corrupt.
Now, these are just the poems that supposedly haven't happened yet or could be happening right now. There's still a few more poems that have to do with the end of times, but we will explain these for you in the next episode.
There have been natural disasters happening all over the world recently. Some of them probably aren't so natural, but they are happening nonetheless. The Bible speaks of many disasters happening before the return of the Messiah.
The book of Mark, chapter 13, 7-9 states,
"When you hear of wars and rumors of wars, do not be alarmed. These things must happen, but the end is still to come. Nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be earthquakes in various places, as well as famines and troubles. These are the beginnings of sorrows."
Verse 9 goes on to say,
"So be on your guard. You will be delivered over to the councils and beaten in the synagogues. On my account you will stand before governors and kings, as witnesses to them."
Since January of 2020, areas in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, have reported the heaviest rainfalls the area has seen in 110 years. This has caused flooding, mudslides, you name it, which has killed about 30 people. And 18 are said to still be missing. It's estimated that 30,000 to 46,000 people are without homes because of these disasters.
Just a year before this, there was the Brumadinho Dam disaster, which also happened in Brazil. A dam at an iron ore mine failed, releasing a mudslide that killed around 270 people. There was also a similar incident in 2015 with another dam disaster.
Then there are storms Ciara and Dennis in the United Kingdom, which started in November 2019 to February 2020, causing flooding across many parts of the UK. These storms have led to record-breaking wetness across the UK since the country started recording such things in 1766. And I mean, more flooding over there. I mean, that place already gets so much rain. That's crazy.
Seriously. Yeah, and similar storms have happened recently in parts of Spain, northern France, causing flooding and heavy damage. The Jakarta floods in Indonesia in this past January have killed about 66 people and have left nearly 60,000 people without a home.
Southeast Kentucky had flooding due to a heavy rainfall event on February 6th through February 7th, which caused a state of emergency to be declared by Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear. And as we know, much of the world has been on fire in recent years as well. In 2019 alone, there were the Amazon rainforest fires, parts of the Canary Islands were on fire, Vietnam, Siberia, the UK, Australia were all on fire much of last year.
And we all remember the California wildfire last year that devastated parts of Paradise, California, and one of the weirdest wildfires anyone has ever seen. Trees burning from the inside out. The fire seemed to somehow go around things and only burn what it wanted to, kind of like it was done on purpose. Directed energy weapons, maybe? Just throwing it out there.
You think? And of course, Ben, Bohemian Grove seems to survive every time.
Yeah. Can't live without that.
And then there are the recent earthquakes, which seem to be more than just normal earthquakes. In just the US alone, there have been earthquakes in many states around the country.
Yeah, on March 31st, there was a 6.5 magnitude earthquake in Idaho. Earthquakes are apparently rare in Idaho, and there were at least 45 aftershocks felt in 6 surrounding states. The largest one registering at 4.6 magnitude on the Richter scale.
And I just can't imagine there being anything in Idaho other than potatoes.
My cousin is Idaho. He lives in Nowhereville. He's like the nearest thing he has to drive to is like a half hour away.
You know, I just want to say, when I think of Idaho, I really think of... Nope, I just think of potatoes.
That's what I think of too.
You thought I was going somewhere with
I
that.
thought you were going somewhere, but...
To emphasize the potatoes.
Yeah, potatoes.
So, you know, actually what's funny is I was thinking, hey, wasn't Napoleon Dynamite shot in Idaho? And then I was like, no, it was Utah.
Utah, that's right.
Idaho really only has potatoes. All right, anyway, just 2 weeks before this, a 5.7 magnitude earthquake hit Utah, speak of the devil. According to the USGS, the earthquake depth was about 6 miles deep. Other earthquakes are happening in other parts of the US as well, and all over the world. Many believe that these earthquakes are actually destruction of deep underground bases by the Alliance, those dumbs. If that is true, then the deep stank players have nowhere to hide or are running out of hiding places quick.
Yeah. Earthquakes are mentioned in many places throughout the Bible. Could all these earthquakes we're seeing, whether natural occurrences or not, be a sign of the end times? Biblical prophecies seem to be lining up all over the world. The deep state has enslaved our minds and have made many of us so hopelessly dependent on the system that these people will even fight you to protect this prison that we're trying to free them from.
Yep, it's just like in The Matrix. An agent can take over the body of anyone still plugged into the system. Many of us have probably experienced this. Many of us have probably lost friends over this. Once you start trying to expose the truth to people, they suddenly morph into Mr. Smith and protect the Matrix. And I guess they're thinking you're the crazy one, right?
Really, but the truth is coming for everyone soon enough. And the question is, are people ready for it? But it's not really their fault. We have to try and be patient with them, even if people who were your good friends fought you over this stuff and they are no longer your friends. Hopefully, when they learn the truth, they will reconnect with you and seek advice from you. They are certainly going to need advice from someone, right? They are going to remember what they said to you, and they'll remember how they try to make you feel once everything is revealed to them.
However, on the other hand, there are those out there who are not going to be able to accept the truth at all. So we have to be ready for that as well. Some will not be able to accept that they were wrong. Many will cling to this system that they have grown to love and depend on and go down with the ship, kicking and screaming the whole way. the ship or the Schiff, like Adam Schiff? Anyway, it's going to be a rough adjustment period.
Good one there. Yeah, that it seems like could be happening pretty quickly. But anyway.
Yeah, that was the most timely joke we made today, other than the Madonna one.
True. Well, you guys, all ancient holy texts say the same thing, that in the end, God wins. The CCP and the Cabal's reign is almost at its end. Have faith, be patient, hold your head up, and keep being a shining example of hope.
Hey, and thanks for being with us, everyone. In part 2, we will expose our understanding of who the Antichrist is, how it directly relates to our world today, how President Trump seems to be the center of some predictions, and how China, Iran, and of course, the Cabal play an extremely important role. And of course, we'll talk to you about what the real 666 could mean. But we love you all, so until next time, we'll see you out
on the edge of Armageddon.
You had to go Armageddon with that one. Like we could have left it with potatoes, but you were like Armageddon. Lambrusco Grasparosa di Castavet. Yeah, I messed that up. Lambrusco Gaspraosa. That sounds friggin' Spanish. One more time. You said wild as wildfires, and I was like, wow, that was poetic, man.